response where there were no casualties. Meanwhile, Japan has downgraded its tsunami warning to an advisory for coastlines from Kanto to Wakayama. But a higher alert remains for northern regions like Hokkaido and Tomioka. Officials say tsunami waves were still being observed and the threat of damage remains. People in coastal areas are advised to stay on high ground or in evacuation shelters. Authorities warn that dangerous conditions could continue for another day. Meanwhile, the Philippines has lifted all tsunami advisories after reporting no significant sea level disturbances. On the US West Coast, waves over a meter high have hit Northern California. In Crescent City, waves reached 3.6 feet. Further south in Arena Cove, heights have doubled to 3 feet. A warning remains in place for areas up to the Oregon border. We're now joined by our guest this hour, Christina Malyk, who's a Sputnik Special Correspondent. She joins us live from Moscow. Christina, thank you very much for joining us. Obviously, you are joining us from the Russian capital. However, news of this earthquake must have brought alarm. Something that was expected to be a disaster so far hasn't been as serious as expected. However, could you take us through the day in the information that you have heard and the feeling in the Russian capital and of the Russian people that this huge 8.8 magnitude earthquake that happened on Russian land? Can you hear me? Hi, Christina, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if did you hear my question?
No, unfortunately, I didn't hear.
Apologies, Christina. So essentially, my thoughts have just been throughout this day, and obviously that this 8.8 magnitude earthquake occurred in Russia, that region of the east. Obviously, you are in Moscow now. Just wondering if you could take me through the day. The feelings in Russia regarding this disaster. Obviously, we thought something worse was coming. It so far hasn't. Can you take us through the feelings of the Russian capital?
Feelings are really good because we see that our infrastructure, Russian emergency services and all the infrastructure that was built in Russian Far East to prevent any damages from such an earthquakes are working really good. There is no panic, so people are reacting normally according to all the emergency instructions that were done earlier. So the feeling is really good. We are feeling, I think we are feeling just like successful ones because it's the strongest earthquake since 1952, and there is no damage, there is no casualties, and I think it's a big success.
Yes. Should people still be worried? Are people still worried in Russia? Obviously, the alert has now been downgraded. However, some of the surrounding areas, the alert levels still remain very high. What's the feeling in regards to the wider the region here?
There is no worries. No one is in panic. Everything is working, so there is no electricity or internet shortage. So everything is working well. Everything is under control, so no one is panicking, no one is worrying. If someone thinks that he's staying is the place which is not really safe, he can just stay to the government and to move in another part of the region, so the government will help and provide with all they need. So there is no problem, really.
How about how it's going to affect the wider region? We've heard of some small infrastructure damage. Do you think that the Russian infrastructure was prepared for something like this to happen? And how frequent of an occurrence is this in Russian territory?
Well, as I've already said, the Far East Russian territory, which is usually used to get some earthquakes with different strength, was well prepared. As our Earth Physics Academy have said, Russia was preparing for such a strong earthquake for 30 years. So everything was prepared, people was prepared, the infrastructure was prepared, the buildings was built in order to resist such disasters. So everyone is knowing that there will be some aftershocks, and no one is in panic. So we are ready. So nothing bad will be after it.
Christina, in light of the tsunami's impact on the Kuril Islands, how might this influence Russia's territorial claims and relations with neighbouring countries, especially Japan?
I don't think that such a natural disaster that was in the Kuril Islands may impact on this issue, just because, on the Kuril Islands was a fishing factory that was a bit damaged and a bit flooded. So there is no casualties and no damages as well. So I don't see there any problem for Russian independence and on the Kuril Islands.
Yes, and Christina, the earthquake's epicenter was obviously near the so-called Pacific Ring of Fire. How does this event compare to other seismic activities in the region, and what does it indicate about the frequency of tectonic plate movements in the region?
I am not a scientist, and I cannot just think about the perspectives of tectonic actions in the region, of course, but what I see that Russia is coping with this and coping really successfully, as far as I can see. Maybe Russia's Far East is coping the disaster the most successful on the Asia-Pacific region now. That's all that I can say.
Yes, and obviously the earthquake prompted the tsunami warnings across the Pacific, affecting countries like Japan, the Philippines, and the US West Coast as well. What does this indicate about the interconnectedness of these disaster risks in the Pacific region?
I think that's the question for some earth physics, not for me as a journalist, yes. Because I just don't know how can this even impact on the Asia-Pacific region, just in the scale of physics or geography.
Yes, of course. Christina